Hi, I'm Eliza and I'm going to be today's zombie.
Hi, I'm Brian and I'm the head makeup artist and special effects person for Endgame, which is a local Brisbane zombie film. Today we're going to show you how to do a very basic but slightly complex zombie makeup. It's a bit more than just splashing a bit of blood on. It's always good just to start with any sort of makeup with a little bit of cream just to protect the skin. Our next step will be to apply a base coat. We make up a mixture of very light grey paint. So you want to tap a little bit of your body paint onto a palette just so you don't get too much on your sponge. Start stippling it all over a spot where there isn't any makeup, and you'll get a very light texture on your sponge that way. Now this makeup that we're doing here is very good for long distance walks, such as you'll see on the Brisbane zombie walk. For more delicate areas around noses, lips, etc., just use a smaller sponge, perhaps something with a bit of a tip to it. It really allows you to get into the corners and whatnot. It's always a quick way to just rub the sponge down the skin, but you've got to remember that's going to leave a lot of streak marks. So quickly just go back over it with a patting motion. Okay, so that's the first stage of our makeup. The other thing that we're going to show you is a novel way of using liquid latex, and we're going to dab it just on Eliza's cheek here, and we're going to dab a little bit up on her forehead. Latex dries considerably quickly, but if you're finding that it's going a little too slow, you can always use a hairdryer. When you're able to touch the latex and it doesn't stick or come off, that's when you want to start playing with it. We're going to pinch the latex on Eliza's forehead to create sort of a torn boil effect. You can see here we've torn the latex open. You can see Eliza's skin tones underneath. With latex it dries clear, so you don't even need to paint over that if you don't want to. And again, down here on the cheek. Next we're going to do around Eliza's eyes. We've got a red and we've got a brown. We're going to mix that in with some of the greys that we made earlier. The reason for that is it just blends really well with what's already on her skin. I'm just going to now very carefully just run that across her eyelids. Would you like to close your eyes, Eliza? Thank you. Run that just over her eyelids. You can use all sorts of conventional makeups for this bit as well. I'll now add in a bit of brown on the top, just to darken that, and I'll come in a couple of strokes underneath, and then I'll get some more grey onto my brush and I'll start blending that from the bottom. I just work into it and then I'll work back out of it. We're going to focus on the lips next. So for the lips, grab your sponge, get a little bit of that brown going on, mix it in a little bit with the grey, and we're just going to dab very lightly across her lips, and the idea is that it doesn't entirely cover all of her lip. For your latex boils, I suggest getting some just straight out red paint. Just start going into some of these boils and create right onto Eliza's skin here where we took the latex away. And don't go outside of it. The idea here is that we just want to say that this flesh is torn open, that the zombie's flesh is grey, and that underneath, where these boils are broken open, you can see the meat of her cheek and her forehead. The latex which you've broken earlier will sometimes sit in folds, so make sure your paint goes up underneath those fobs. So just push your paintbrush up underneath them, just very gently. Because the Brisbane zombie walk is held in the afternoon, you get a lot of contrasting light as the sun sets. And if you've used latex to give yourself a sort of a broken skin look, it'll cast a lot of shadowing and it'll look really good. The last step we want to do is just apply a little bit of blood. Now, I wouldn't recommend going overboard on the blood. So I've got some homemade zombie slime here, which is green. We're going to apply a bit of this zombie slime to some of the wounds on Eliza's face. And that just gives a bit of a sheen to the red paint that we applied earlier. If you can have it dribbling out of the wounds a little bit, it looks really nice. On some of the latex that I've pulled apart, I'm just painting the backs of that latex as well. Now we're going to apply a little bit of this around the corner of one of the lips here. One of the favourite little makeup bits in any zombie walk is always the blood, which people sometimes go fairly liberal with and others a little sparingly, but mostly it's the liberal bit. So we're going to use some blood. Now you can find blood recipes all over the internet. There's all different kinds. So I'm just going to do a little bit of blood coming out of Eliza's nose. When you're applying blood, you don't want to run it along the skin. You don't want to drag the brush on the skin. I try and keep the brush as much as possible off the skin and just dab it. And you'll feel the blood congeal and thicken on the skin in a really natural way instead of just being smeared across it. And then once I've got a line going, like for example, let's do one coming out of this cheek here, very lightly touch the skin, get a bit of a line happening. Then I try and get as much blood on the brush as possible, and I start from the bottom where I touched it. And I just keep dabbing at it until a really nice thick ball of blood sits there, and that looks like a drip then. Now this makeup technique that you've seen here today, we've used that quite extensively on our local independent film called Endgame. You can find us on the internet, just look on YouTube for Endgame.